अस्सलाम वालेकुम जी। मेरा नाम अली चीमा है। मैं लम्स की इकोनॉमिक्स डिपार्टमेंट में फैकल्टी मेंबर हूं और आज लम्स लाइव सेशन नंबर 14 के साथ हम लाइव चले गए हैं। एक तो मैं माजरत कर दूं कि मैं अदील हाशमी साहब को रिप्लेस कर रहा हूं और मुझे पता है कि उनको रिप्लेस करना आसान काम नहीं है, बट मेरी उम्मीद है कि आज का जो टॉपिक है और जो हमारे साथ गेस्ट हैं वो शायद इस कमी को पूरी कर लें। तो हमारा जो टॉपिक है, हम बुनियादी तौर पे ये समझना चाह रहे हैं कि अभी हुकूमत पाकिस्तान ने एक पॉलिसी चेंज की है और इस वक्त इकोनॉमी जो है उसको खोला जा रहा है विद इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ दिस वायरस। तो हम इस पे इधर आज तनकीद या इस उस सिलसिले में नहीं बात करना चाह रहे, बट हम ये बात करना चाह रहे हैं कि इस फैसले को हम किस तरह सोचें, इसकी रिस्क्स क्या हैं और उन रिस्क के बुनियाद पे आगे कैसे चलना चाहिए। इसको हमने कहा है, इसका टाइटल है फ्लैटनिंग द कर्व इन द पाकिस्तानी कॉन्टेक्स्ट। फ्लैटनिंग द कर्व एक फ्रेमवर्क है ऑफ रिस्पॉन्स, जो हम ये भी इस पे डिस्कस करेंगे कि पाकिस्तानी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में इसका मतलब क्या है। ये एक लफ्ज है, एक टर्म है, बट इसका मुख्तलिफ ममालिक में मुख्तलिफ मतलब निकल सकते हैं। मेरे साथ बहुत एक रेलेवेंट और वेल नोन पैनल है। हमारे साथ यहाँ आज हैं डॉक्टर सामिया अल्ताफ, जो एक फिजिशियन भी हैं बट पाकिस्तान की एक प्रोमिनेंट पब्लिक हेल्थ स्पेशलिस्ट हैं, जिन्होंने यूएन एजेंसीज के साथ भी पास में काम किया है और आगा खान यूनिवर्सिटी मेडिकल कॉलेज के साथ भी वो फैकल्टी रही हैं। बट जो डॉक्टर अल्ताफ की बहुत बड़ी कंट्रीब्यूशन है वो उनकी एक किताब है जिसका नाम है सो मच एड सो लिटिल डेवलपमेंट। और उसके अंदर उसके साथ साथ उन्होंने जो हमारे हेल्थ डिलीवरी सिस्टम्स हैं उसके ऊपर बहुत तहकीक की है। हमारे साथ डॉक्टर शापर मिर्जा हैं, जो स्कूल ऑफ साइंस एंड इंजीनियरिंग इन लम्स में असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर हैं और वो उनका काम जो है वो बायोलॉजी में है और पब्लिक हेल्थ में है। और उन्होंने बहुत पब्लिकेशंस किए हैं डिजीजेस के ऊपर और पब्लिक हेल्थ सिस्टम्स के ऊपर। सो वी आर थैंकफुल टू बोथ ऑफ देम। मेरे जो अगले दो गेस्ट हैं उन्होंने बहुत काम किया है, लेकिन मैं उनको इस तरह जानता हूं कि वो लम्स के बहुत माहनाज अलमनस हैं दोनों। और आई एम प्रोबेबली शोइंग माय एज नाउ, क्योंकि मुझे वो बहुत जवान याद आते हैं जब वो यूनिवर्सिटीज में फिरते थे। मुशर्रफ जैदी साहब हैं, जो एक पब्लिक पॉलिसी प्रोफेशनल हैं और वो इस वक्त सीईओ हैं तबाद लैब के, जो कि एक पॉलिसी थिंक टैंक है इस्लामाबाद में और बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट काम कर रहा है और उसने बहुत रिस्पांस के ऊपर पब्लिकेशंस की हैं जो मैं सजेस्ट करूंगा लोगों को पढ़नी चाहिए। वो इसके अलावा बेसिकली एडवाइजर भी रहे हैं टू द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फॉरेन अफेयर्स, बिकॉज इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस में भी उनका बहुत काम है। और वो 2014 में वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम में यंग ग्लोबल लीडर के तौर पे रिकग्नाइज किए गए। एंड मोस्ट ऑफ ऑल हम सब मुशर्रफ की राइटिंग और उनकी जो कमेंट्री है टेलीविजन उससे जो है सीखते रहते हैं। डॉक्टर समीन मोहसिन सोशल साइंस डिपार्टमेंट में हैं, जिन्होंने स्टेट की कैपेसिटी और ब्यूरोक्रेटिक फंक्शनिंग पे बहुत काम किया है। तो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सिस्टम को किस तरह कन्फिगर करना है इस चीज के लिए, शी इज अ वेरी रेलेवेंट पर्सन एंड हैज अ लॉट ऑफ रिसर्च. So let me kind of get on and frame the first question. So I want to, because public के mind में एक बहुत बड़ी बात है opening up, और हमें थोड़ा सा इसको फ्रेम करना है कि opening up के साथ क्या risks associated है। तो मैं जिस चीज से शुरू करना चाहता हूं वो इस चीज से है कि जब आप खोलेंगे इस माशरे को, एंड आई वांट टू गो टू डॉक्टर अल्ताफ, तो इसके साथ हेल्थ रिस्क्स हमें क्या वरी करनी चाहिए। सो डॉक्टर अल्ताफ,
Ji, thank you very much, Dr. Chima, and this is a privilege and an honor to be part of this panel और इस चीज़ की इसके ऊपर बहस करने के लिए, जो कि बहुत ही इस वक्त पर्टिनेंट और ज़रूरी इशू है। देखिए, जो फ्लैटनिंग द कर्व का ये फ्रेज है, ये बहुत ही it's being bandied around constantly without a clear definition of what does it actually mean for a particular country. अगर देखा जाए तो जो ट्रेडिशनल इसकी ज़रूरत इसलिए पेश आती है कि इससे जो इन्फेक्शंस हैं वो एकदम से इतनी ज़्यादा नहीं बढ़ती और अस्पतालों को और हुकूमत को और इदारों को मौका मिल जाता है कि वो अपने आप को तैयार कर लें कि जब इन्फेक्शन बहुत से लोगों में फैल जाएगी तो फिर उनमें से बहुत से बीमार होंगे, अस्पताल जाएंगे, किसी को क्वारंटीन चाहिए होगा, उस तैयारी के लिए। पाकिस्तान के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में अगर आप देखिए कि जो लॉकडाउन हुआ है पिछले मार्च 18 से लेके अब तक, तो उसमें हमारा क्या मतलब था, हम क्या उसमें अचीव करना चाहते थे, हमारा क्या गोल था। एक तो ये क्लियर नहीं था हुकूमत की तरफ से कि भाई हम क्या करना चाहते हैं। और अगर देखा जाए तो इन रियलिटी अब 6 हफ्ते अब तकरीबन 4 हफ्ते 1 महीना हो गया। अगर देखा जाए तो वो लॉकडाउन भी एक्चुअली लॉकडाउन तो कोई भी नहीं था। चीज़ें खुली थी, लोग आते जा रहे थे, सिर्फ जो क्रिटिकल स्कूल्स बंद हो गए या शादियाँ बंद हो गईं या ट्रांसपोर्ट जो थी वो जो गवर्नमेंट की ट्रांसपोर्ट थी वो बंद हो गई, मगर लोग अपना खुद ब खुद जो था वो कुछ ना कुछ तरीका निकाल रहे थे। इसका एक्चुअल अगर आप देखें तो इम्पैक्ट ये हुआ है कि एक तो ये है कि जो लोगों के कारोबार बंद हुए हैं और उनकी जो कमाई के ज़रिए बंद हुए हैं, उससे उनको काफ़ी नुकसान हुआ है। देखिए, लॉकडाउन उन मुल्कों में सक्सेसफुल रहा है, जहाँ पे आप 2 चीज़ें साथ कर सकें। एक तो ये है कि जिन लोगों को जो लोग अपने घरों में बंद हैं, उन्हें खाना पहुँचाया गया और दूसरे उनके अकाउंट में पैसे डाले गए। अगर ये नहीं हुआ तो और जैसे हमारे मुल्क हैं, जहाँ पे क्राउडेड कंडीशंस हैं और बहुत सारे लोग छोटे-छोटे कमरों में रहते हैं, तो वहाँ पे लॉकडाउन का क्या मतलब? दूसरा जो जो लॉकडाउन की वजह से आपने अपने अपने सिस्टम्स को गियर अप करना था, अपने सिस्टम्स को ठीक करना था, अस्पतालों को ठीक करना था, डॉक्टर और लाने थे, नर्सेज़ और लानी थी, इक्विपमेंट और पहुँचानी थी, वो भी कोई ठीक से नहीं हो सकी। थिंग्स आर नॉट मच बेटर देन दे वर बिफोर। मेरी नज़र में तो ये जो लॉकडाउन है, इसका कुछ ख़ास फ़ायदा नहीं हुआ, ना ही कोई क्लियर डेफिनिशन है कि इसका क्या फ़ायदा हो सकता है। इसकी डिस्कशन बाद में करेंगे, आई डोंट वांट टू टेक टू मच ऑफ द टाइम कि एक्चुअली होना क्या चाहिए और लॉकडाउन खुलना कैसे चाहिए। मगर आई वांट टू लीव दिस दिस डिस्कशन नाउ विद 2 थिंग्स कि जो जो हमारा गवर्नमेंट का इस मुल्क का रिस्पॉन्स रहा है टुवर्ड्स हैंडलिंग कोविड, वो एक पब्लिक हेल्थ पर्सपेक्टिव से नहीं रहा, बिकॉज़ पब्लिक हेल्थ पर्सपेक्टिव में द इश्यू इज़ कि आपने आपने जो रिस्क है वो कैसे असेस करना है और आपने लार्जर पब्लिक को हार्म कैसे रिड्यूस करना है। और जो इस वबा की वजह से, इस इन्फेक्शन की वजह से 2 चीज़ें 2 तरीके से आप लोगों को नुकसान पहुँचा सकते हैं। एक तो ये है कि इस वबा की वजह से लोगों को नुकसान पहुँच सकता है कि आप ये वबा फैलेगी और आपने यू हैवंट डन इनफ टू टेक केयर ऑफ पीपल, सो उनको नुकसान पहुँचेगा। दूसरा ये कि अगर आपकी रिस्पॉन्स भी गलत होगी और इनअप्रोप्रिएट होगी, तो उससे भी लोगों को नुकसान पहुँचेगा। आप देख रहे हैं कि हमारे मुल्क में इकोनॉमी को काफ़ी नुकसान पहुँचा है और मैंने बहुत सारे प्राइवेट डॉक्टर्स के साथ बात की है जिनकी प्रैक्टिसेज़ बंद हो गई थी। 2-3 लोगों ने मुझे स्पेसिफिकली बताया कि इस 1 महीने में दे हैव लॉस्ट एनीवेयर from 4 to 6 patients. That means people have died who couldn't get to their doctors in time. अगर हम ये लॉकडाउन कर रहे थे ज़िंदगियाँ बचाने के लिए, तो हमने एक तरफ से शायद ज़िंदगियाँ ज़रूर बचाई हैं because those are also precious lives that need to be saved. But on the other hand, there are vulnerable people who we let die. This is a controversial issue. इस पे ज़रा खुल के बात जो है वो I'm sure होगी।
डॉक्टर अल्ताफ, थैंक यू। मतलब 3 मोटी बातें आपने की हैं और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। आपने कहा कि हमें बेसिकली रिस्क असेस करनी है सिचुएशन की और हमने बेसिकली हार्म को मिनिमाइज करना है जो उससे हो रही है। लेकिन आपने कहा कि रिस्क के मुख्तलिफ पहलू हैं। एक वबा से एसोसिएटेड रिस्क है, एक माशी रिस्क है और एक जो है हेल्थ केयर की अवेलेबिलिटी ना होने की वजह से जो मनफी दूसरी कंडीशंस की वजह से इफेक्ट आ सकता है, जिसमें लाइव्स का लॉस भी हो सकता है, वो एक तीसरा पहलू इसमें आ जाता है। तो डॉक्टर मिर्जा, मैं आपकी तरफ आना चाहता हूं कि जो वबा की रिस्क है, इस पे भी अब दुनिया में बहुत बहस चल रही है कि ये वबा की रिस्क जो है वो कितनी ज्यादा है। तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर आप ये रिसेंट सर्वेज देखें न्यूयॉर्क में, पहले जो था, जो सिर्फ जो पीसीआर टेस्टिंग है, और मैं अपने लिसनर्स को ये बताता जाऊं कि पीसीआर बेस्ड टेस्टिंग ये होती है कि वो आपको बताती है कि इस वक्त आपको जो है इन्फेक्शन है कि नहीं। उसके बेसिस पे जब न्यूयॉर्क में टेस्टिंग हुई तो पता ये लग रहा था कि जो पॉपुलेशन में प्रेवलेंस है वबा की, वो कहा जा रहा था तकरीबन 1% है। बट अभी उन्होंने एक सैंपल स्टडी की है बेस्ड ऑन सीरो प्रेवलेंस, जो ये बताती है कि क्या कभी आपको ये वबा हुई है कि नहीं। और वो उन्होंने शहर का एक रैंडम सैंपल उठा के स्टडी की, और उसमें ये पता लग रहा है कि तकरीबन 21% लोगों को ये वबा हो गई थी। तो उसमें से ज्यादातर ऐसे लोग थे जिनको इस वबा की वजह से ना सिम्टम्स हुए, वो एसिम्प्टोमेटिक रहे, उन्होंने हेल्थ केयर सीख नहीं की। तो जो इनिशियल मोर्टालिटी एस्टिमेट्स थे, जो सिर्फ उस पेशेंट पॉपुलेशन के बेसिस पे थे जो कि बीमार हो रहे थे, अब ये भी एक सवाल उठ रहा है कि बेसिकली शायद वो एक बहुत सेलेक्ट पॉपुलेशन है, और बड़ी पॉपुलेशन में आप देखें तो शायद मोर्टालिटी कम हो। मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि ये मेरा व्यू है, ये एक एविडेंस सामने आ रहा है। इसको मद्देनजर रखते हुए हमें थोड़ी सी ये डिस्कशन करनी चाहिए, जो डॉक्टर अल्ताफ ने कहा कि वबा की रिस्क ये है कितनी बड़ी, और दूसरी ये रिस्क किसके लिए, बिकॉज तमाम पॉपुलेशन के लिए यकसा रिस्क नहीं। तो इस पे मैं डॉक्टर मिर्जा
जी, actually there are lots of different aspects to this one question. So the first thing that you asked was how big a risk it is. So in a nutshell, it's very difficult, and speaking in context of Pakistan, it is actually very difficult to say how big of a risk it is, because we haven't done the amount of testing that is required or necessary in order to estimate the risk. And I would totally agree with Dr. Samia that we need to do a lot more in order to understand how big a risk it is. Now, if we keep this aside, and if we go back to your point that you raised about 1% of people who were positive for PCR, whereas 21% of people who were positive for seroprevalence, I would like to make a note here that this particular virus resembles 6 other viruses, and those 6 viruses cause common cold in people all the time. So coming up positive for antibody actually doesn't mean anything unless you are using very specific proteins that are relevant for this particular virus. So those 21% of people, all it's telling you is that they have seen that infection at some point in their lives. Now, it's not necessary that they have seen an infection with SARS-CoV-2. There are 6 other SARS, or there are 6 other coronaviruses that are present in the surroundings, or that are present in the environment, that may be causing an infection. So this 21% might reflect that they have developed antibodies to those. So we should not panic at this number. But the good thing about this number is that it is saying that, you know what, yes, you can acquire an infection, but you're not necessarily going to die. That brings me to the second part of your question, that who are those people who are at a very high risk of dying? It is very difficult to tell who are those people. So initially, when this pandemic came out, or it broke out, people thought that those who are old and the ones who have comorbid conditions are more susceptible to dying and are more susceptible to developing severe infections. But if you look at the literature, it's turning out that this is not true. So it has something to do with our immune system, जिसको उर्दू में क़ुव्वत मुदाफ़ियत कहते हैं. हम सब का immune system जो है वो different है. In fact, हम खुद, अगर आप अपनी मिसाल ले लें, तो आपको अगर infection एक महीने में आपको 2 infection हुए, you might actually respond differently to both of those infections depending on your state of immune system in that particular time. Maybe the second time you had an infection, you're going to respond it poorly because you had something else going on with you. And the first time you had an infection, you didn't have anything else going on with you. You were perfectly healthy. So you are going to respond it really well. Now, having said that, the question still remains how big of a risk it is. So for that, we need to concentrate our studies. We need to deploy teams into different areas, do a random sampling of population. This is going to help you in 2 ways. One, you're going to identify the hotspots, and that will help you in smart containment, that you're going to understand these are the specific regions or these are the specific areas that you have to target. And then in another way, you are identifying hotspots that have a higher prevalence or higher incidence. Now, prevalence and incidence are two different terminologies. Incidence का मतलब है कि वहाँ कितने active infections हैं, और prevalence का मतलब है कि generally वहाँ पे public में कितना बड़ा infection rate था. And you're going to identify both of those. Now, the third point that I would like to make here is that this disease is बहुत unusual viral infection है because it has 4 different types of presentation. Asymptomatic है where you are harboring the virus, जिसमें आप PCR positive आते हैं, but you never develop infection. एक asymptomatic है जिसको pre-symptomatic भी कहते हैं, कि मतलब you were harboring the virus, but then in 10 days you actually did develop symptoms. And then the third stage is that you develop symptoms and you get really bad. I mean, you got this infection gets really severe, and you need oxygenation, exogenous oxygenation, which means that you need to be put on ventilator. So given the fact that this disease is presenting in so many different ways, it is really important to understand the pathophysiology of the disease in order and to understand how our immune system is responding to it in order to estimate how big of a risk it's going to be if it infects a person in a population. Because we can't just estimate risk for people who are old, or we can't just estimate risk for people who are had comorbid conditions. We need to estimate risk for general public. And in order to do that, we have to do some really thorough, in-depth epidemiological and biological studies, and then put those together to model transmission and to model the risks.
So though because मैं चाहता हूँ before I turn to Musharraf and Samin, कि कुछ हम इंफॉर्मेशन भी व्यूअर्स को देते चले जाएं, तो मेरे सामने ये फेडरल गवर्नमेंट के नंबर्स हैं इस वक्त. उसमें ये जो जिनकी मोर्टालिटी हुई है इन हॉस्पिटल बिकॉज ऑफ कोविड-19, उसमें जो 2 चीजें बड़ी प्रोमिनेंटली सामने आ रही हैं कि 75% of people who passed away were over the age, 72% were over the age of 51 years. And तकरीबन 70% जो थे they had related comorbidities to do with respiratory disorders and to do with cardiovascular conditions. So it seems that basically there is some correlation, and there is some random sample testing that provinces have started to do. I have some figures from Punjab that on some selected areas within the province, and I'm not going to go into details, but roughly जो उसमें positivity rate आ रहा है in this population is around 4.5%, और जो उसमें asymptomatic population या pre-symptomatic population, यानी कि वो लोग जो positive test कर रहे हैं but actually symptoms अभी तक show नहीं कर रहे, वो जो है वो बहुत बड़ी तादाद है. That's coming to over 85%. So we, in some sense, we are starting to see, जिस तरह आपने कहा कि ये complex condition है, जिसको बड़े measured तरीके से इसकी risks assess करनी चाहिए, और अभी तक वहाँ हम नहीं गए. And I'm going to come back to this point, but I want to bring Musharraf in because I know Musharraf has been thinking about kind of the political economy of Pakistan for a very long time. And Musharraf, what I want to kind of throw at you is the second point that Dr. Altaf talked about, which is basically कि COVID-19 related जो death risk है, वो तो एक risk है. The economic risk is another risk. और आज जो है Bureau of Statistics ने, I think आज या अभी recently उन्होंने April के export figures release किए. And I just want to share those with you because they're quite astonishing. So April 2020 mein basically we're showing export receipts of about $957 million. And in the same time period last year, these receipts were around 2,000, right? So they've virtually been slashed by half, which in some sense kind of builds on to a lot of stories that we're hearing. And as Dr. Altaf herself was saying, whether you're talking about private doctors or you're talking about businesses, people are talking about slashing off incomes either through exports or through local works of about half, यानी कि आधी हो गई आपकी आमदन। तो मैं दो चीजें आपको कहना चाहूंगा कि एक तो आप इस रिस्क को इस कॉन्वर्सेशन में कैसे लेके आएंगे, बट ऑल्सो कि इसकी एक अपनी पॉलिटिकल इकोनॉमी रैमिफिकेशंस भी होंगी, इन टर्म्स ऑफ जो रियासत है उसके साथ जो सिटीजन्स का ताल्लुक बनेगा, that is going to be shaped by, as Dr. Altaf said, कि जो पॉलिसी रिस्पॉन्स इस वक्त हुकूमत की होगी। तो आप किस तरह इसको इवॉल्व भी, एक तो रिस्क क्या है और उसको आप इस कॉन्वर्सेशन में कैसे लेके आएंगे, बट ये इसकी पॉलिटिकल इकोनॉमी को कैसे आप इवॉल्व होते हुए देखें?
ये तो बहुत आसान सवाल हैं डॉक्टर साहब। मेरा ख्याल है कि मतलब बड़े ऑब्वियस से इनके जवाब आते हैं। आपने मेरे लिए मुश्किल सवाल ढूंढना था। Look, I think, a few things to start off, maybe just to provoke the conversation a little bit. First of all, I don't know if the original purpose of public policy vis-a-vis flattening the curve was ever saving lives. Uski kai wujuhat hain. Ek badi wajah ye hai ki there's you can call it devotional, religious, spiritual, but there's a whole superstructure of public discourse in which life and its value is, sort of extraterrestrial, if you will. And what that means is that, and frankly, this is my personal belief system as well, is that life is, not really in our hands. So then what is the purpose of flattening the curve in terms of public policy? Agar zindagi aur maut Allah ke haath mein hai, jo hai, mere liye at least. फ्लैटनिंग द कर्व का मकसद ये था कि आपने अपने पब्लिक हेल्थ केयर सिस्टम को कोलैप्स नहीं होने देना और पब्लिक लॉ एंड ऑर्डर को जो है उस नहज पे, उस लेवल पे नहीं आने देना जहां पे उसको मैनेज करना मुश्किल हो जाए। Now, why are we concerned about the public healthcare system? Because even on its best days, when Pakistan has grown at nearly 7% a year, and we've been witness to that, all of us who were alive, we're all old enough to remember high growth years, relatively speaking, as rare and few and far apart as they may be. Even in those years, this country was not able to provide primary, secondary, or tertiary care to all of its citizens in a minimally acceptable, standardized way. So the fact that we are facing a new public health crisis in which nobody quite knows the full extent of the disease. Dr. Mirza was speaking about, the 4 stages, but, we also know there's a type S and a type R. We also know that the sudden shift from asymptomatic to symptomatic can be quite quick. And then from symptomatic to fatality for 30 plus year olds, males in particular, there's a whole sort of typology of cases in which there have been brain hemorrhages. There have been people who've had other lung failure sort of occur. So there's a lot happening, and not to pretend that I know, nobody knows, right? And so again, the purpose is to limit the damage that this COVID-19 can do to the country at large, the social structures that exist formally and informally, that includes state and society both, to be able to provide the system with the absorptive capacity to take the brunt of this monstrous disease and to survive the day after. So COVID-19 T+1 जो यानी कि जब ये solve हो जाएगा या जब ये crisis खत्म होगा तो उसके अगले दिन are we still standing? Do we look like a coherent? Is the Islamic Republic largely still a coherent idea? This is not just a challenge existentially for Pakistan, it's a challenge particularly for developing countries with high populations. But as we're seeing right now, it's a challenge for the United States, the most powerful country on the planet. तो इसमें घबराना नहीं है इस तरह से कि ये पाकिस्तान की तनकीद नहीं हो रही, पाकिस्तान के लीडरों की तनकीद नहीं हो रही, ये इसको समझने की जरूरत है कि है क्या. So,
Musharraf, what I want you to comment on is what do you think is the root cause of that? I mean, there are multiple things going on, right? And there is a trade-off here. The trade-off is to insulate the pressure on the healthcare system. आपको जैसे डॉक्टर अल्ताफ ने कहा कि आपको basically एक किस्म की distancing create करनी है. So you have to reshape how you live and how you behave. when you start to do that, you create massive economic shocks. I mean, in my lifetime, I have never seen the urban economy of Pakistan face such a big economic shock, right? Because you're saying, okay, let's look at T+1, right? I mean, the day after. So what's going to devastate people here? And I'll tell you one interesting thing. When the 1918 flu epidemic happened in India, actually it was a very, and 1 million lives were lost. It was kind of not something that resonated in the memory of United India. It just passed over, but the famine did. So what's going on here? Because it's pretty complex.
Yeah, and I wouldn't pretend to understand even the beginnings of the full spectrum, but I can only offer, you know, how I see things. I think the reason I start with the day after, the T+1, is because we have to work our way backwards from, if we want to be standing on that day, what are the things that we need to do? So obviously, as you pointed out, there's two big divides. I'm not sure this trade-off notion has been a helpful one, especially for our leader. I think in any discourse, and this is, again, the whole world is the same right now, so it's not specifically picking on the Prime Minister or on Pakistan. But we now live in a world in which discourses are addicted to 0-1. They seek and they reject complexity and gray. What people want to hear is, give me either all the way left or all the way right. I don't want to be confused. I don't want to be morally compromised by standing in the middle. This is now a global epidemic in terms of how we think about issues. The problem is that it isn't a 0-1, right? Between public health and the economy, if people are dying at a certain rate, if their death comes with other burdens, for example, if your public health system, and let's make it real, if Mayo Hospital has 300 families outside, and of those 300 families, one family's member dies inside the hospital, and the 6 cousins and brothers, sisters, aunties, and uncles go into the hospital and ransack the hospital like they did at JPMC, one family, then that's a problem. But that's a Wednesday night when Pakistan is growing at 7%. Now you multiply that by whatever number you want to in terms of projections, and we can go slow. We can assume that the curve is flattened, but at certain point, T+N right now, to whatever point we want to look at in the future, there's going to be a time when the number of doctors and nurses and healthcare workers on the other side of that equation will be lower than the number of complaining, angry, and potentially violent protesters / mourners. So that delta and that tipping point is to be avoided at all costs. So we want to get to T+1 the day after COVID without tripping that tripwire. That's number one. Now, if you trip that wire, that has a massive economic cost on the country writ large. And then we can go through different examples. I've just used a really stark one because many of us would have seen कि JPMC में क्या हुआ था चंद दिन पहले जब लोग जो है वो उन्होंने रैंसैक किया, उसमें आपने जाके इक्विपमेंट तोड़ा. तो जब आपने जाके इक्विपमेंट तोड़ा तो आपने आने वाले जो वेंटिलेटर के यूजर्स थे उनके लिए भी जो है दुश्वारी पैदा की. इसको आपने बिल्कुल सेक्युलराइज करके और अनइमोशनली अगर आप इसको देखें, so these are economic questions. So this separation of economic and public health, I think, is the first almost falsehood or phantom binary that we have to work our way around. I think I should stop and allow the conversation to proceed. Yeah. There's a lot more to say, but I'm sure we'll have a chance to do it during the flow of the conversation.
Sameen, let me kind of bring you in on one of the things that Musharraf has raised, or wo important cheez hai, which is the fact that the Pakistani state has hugely underinvested in its healthcare system. And that is part of the problem, because ye jo equation hai, whatever the outcome will be, there दो पहलू हैं इसके. एक तो ये है कि आप बिहेव कैसे करते हैं और डिजीज की ट्रांसमिशन कैसे कैटलाइज होती है, बट दूसरी केयर कैपेसिटी क्या है टू उसका जो आउटकम होता है. अब मेरे पास इधर अगेन कुछ नंबर्स पड़े हुए हैं एंड दे आर प्रीटी एस्टोनिशिंग कि टोटल जो आपकी वेंटिलेटर्स की कैपेसिटी है इस वक्त पूरे लेट्स से पंजाब के अंदर, that is essentially less than 700, I think. मतलब पंजाब में 793 ventilators overall हैं and 214 ventilators are available for COVID. पूरे पाकिस्तान में इस वक्त there are about 2,300 ventilators that are available, and 712 जो हैं वो available है COVID related diseases के लिए. So we are not talking about big numbers. मतलब अगर आप सोचें कि 14 साल लोगों को एक वक्त पे वेंटिलेटर्स की जरूरत पड़ गई, तो इसका मतलब है फॉर एवरी वन जिसको आप अकोमोडेट कर रहे हैं, एक को आप टर्न अवे कर रहे हैं, राइट? एंड जो मुशर्रफ बात कह रहे हैं वो एक बहुत रियल बट सिचुएशन है, बट यू नो आई वांट यू, बिकॉज़ आई नो यू हैव डन अ लॉट ऑफ वर्क, कि व्हाई आर वी हियर and what's fundamentally wrong in having such low capacity in our healthcare system. And partly that's a political question, and how do we deal with that politically? So I want to bring you in from that angle.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just add a couple of statistics just to broaden perspective on our health capacity. So we spend about 2.9% of our GDP on health. This is 2017 WHO data. And just to give you a sense of how many doctors we have per 10,000 people, we have 10 doctors per 10,000 people, 6 nurses and midwives per 10,000 people, and 6 hospital beds per 10,000 people. So even before COVID was even on the horizon, we had a very serious issue with health capacity, with beds being oversubscribed, with doctors being stressed out. And there have been a number of, I mean, if you follow public health governance over the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, there's been crisis after crisis after crisis. The most recent, of course, being the MTI Act, over which there have been persistent protests. Doctors have been on strike for a number of years now on a variety of issues, ranging from salary, promotions to postings, and you know, pretty much everything under the sun. Lady health workers have been on strike to demand minimum wage. And so I think what has happened over the last few years is that where you could have expanded, where you did have, as I think Musharraf was pointing out, where you did have growth and you could have expanded your health sector capacity, you would have spent more on the health sector. Attention was diverted elsewhere. Where that elsewhere was, wo ek aur debate hai, and you know, that's something that we can discuss some other time. But I think one of the issues has been that when there has been an interest in public health or in health in general, in the health department, for example, in Punjab, it's often been immensely centralized, and the drive has been to further centralize it. So for instance, in the previous government's era, there was a period where there was a significant interest in medical procurement, medicine procurement, and so on and so forth. And the instinct was, let's centralize it in the hands of the provincial bureaucracy and the provincial government. Now, there's a huge debate in public health governance on this issue of decentralization or centralization. But for a lot of things, you need community mobilizing, you need community input to be able to respond to public health. And this is one instance, COVID is one instance where you need local communities to step in and basically, you know, be able to inform the government about what their issues are. You would have political parties having local structures that are enabling that kind of communication.
Sorry, I think I may be losing you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah, sorry. Can you repeat?
One of the things that happens is that you need local communities and local mobilizers to communicate with the government, right? One of the ways to do that is local government. And so in places where you have political parties that have local roots, where you have local governments, chances are that the capacity, not just in public health, but in other fields as well. The other thing is that as far as the bureaucracy goes, it depends on what is that we are serving a community and their public health, or is there understanding of performance that we are meeting certain metrics that are being set by the provincial government? So for instance, Dr. Samia and I have done research on immunization, and when you talk to them, okay, you know, where are you in terms of achieving immunization coverage of X percentage? Their instinct is to respond with, well, the government has set us a target and we have to meet it by hook or by crook. In public health directions, they're not thinking about explaining to communities what a vaccine is, how it works, what benefits it uses, or even what diseases it's for. The instinct is कि government ने हमें कहा है कि हमें इतने बच्चे vaccinate करने हैं, we have to make sure that that happens. And when you question them and you say कि अच्छा आप will be 100%, because there is this perception that we are there to penalize them, we are there to monitor them, we are there to in some way punish them. And so public health as a way of thinking is not present in much of our bureaucracy. And so that is why you see, for instance, recent incidents have involved things like people getting beaten up when they were protesting for PPE, doctors who were protesting in Quetta and Lahore. If that is your bureaucracy's reaction, then not only do you not have the capacity to provide healthcare for your citizenry in a way that is suitable for this kind of pandemic, but you also are unable to handle the kind of critique and the kind of protest that will result when you don't have that capacity. And so I think there's two things that I personally think would benefit from more attention from the government. And like Musharraf said, this is not about whatever government is in power. This is about the state, which is a non-partisan entity. One is that you need more local engagement. You need to consult local communities in developing policies for them. So if you have something like the COVID-19 pandemic, हर इलाके की needs फर्क है, हर इलाके की understanding of this pandemic will be different. So similarly, just drawing on immunization work, there are different needs in different communities. In some communities, there are more refusals. In some communities, you have more migrant workers, and so they are more likely to miss vaccines. In some communities, you have itinerant workers, like people who are traveling a lot. So उनकी हर community की need फर्क होगी, हर community के SOPs फर्क होंगे. अगर आप ये recognize नहीं करेंगे, then you cannot meet the needs of that population in terms of preventing this pandemic from spreading. At the same time, and this sounds contradictory and it's one of the big issues in public health governance, you also need direction from the center. So the center needs to take certain decisions, at least in terms of establishing some baseline SOPs, which can then be modified slightly for local communities. मगर आपको center से कोई mainstream messaging communication effectively करनी पड़ेगी. So if your persistent messaging from the center is that, well, this pandemic is not really that bad, this disease is not a big deal, it's just the flu, then you are going to have a very serious problem, not just amongst the citizenry, you're also going to have a very serious problem with the bureaucracy and with your own party members and other politicians who are then going to insist that this is not something to be worried about. So messaging and how you communicate the issues related to the pandemic is essential to, sort of trying to build capacity in the environment that we're in. Obviously, इस वक्त हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते in terms of the huge gaps in our capacity. All we can do is basically put a band-aid on a gaping wound. But that band-aid does still need to provide the basic functions of a band-aid. If you're not going to communicate at all, then even that minimal work that you can do is going to fail. I'll stop here and we can continue with questions.
So there's a very, very good article today by Umair Javed, who's another faculty member at LUMS, who looks at the Kerala experience, basically. And there's a quote from that article by Professor Patrick Heller, who's done a lot of research on Kerala, और वो Brown University में professor हैं. और वो केरला की रिस्पॉन्स जो बहुत अच्छी रही है उसके बारे में कहते हैं कि द की हैज बीन द कैपेसिटी ऑफ स्टेट एक्टर्स एंड सिविल सोसाइटी पार्टनर्स टू कोऑर्डिनेट देयर एफर्ट्स, जो आप बात कह रहे हैं. और ये एक और हमें पैराडॉक्स नजर आ रहा है इस सारी सिचुएशन का, कि अगर आप मगरिब में देखें तो टेस्टिंग, जिसकी जिक्र डॉक्टर अल्ताफ ने भी किया और डॉक्टर मिर्जा ने भी किया, कि वो एक बहुत कोर फंडामेंटल टूल है रिस्पॉन्स का. There is a demand from communities to get testing up, basically. लेकिन जो डेटा यहाँ पे आ रहा है, सिंध से आ रहा है, पंजाब से आ रहा है, उसमें ये पता लगता है कि जब होम बेस्ड टेस्टिंग के लिए लोग जाते हैं तो बिटवीन 50% से तकरीबन जो है 70% तक लोग जो हैं कम्युनिटीज में रिफ्यूज कर देते हैं टेस्ट करवाना. So there is a big breakdown here between the community and the state. तो ये एक मैकेनिकल चीज नहीं है कि आपने एक ऑर्डर दे दिया और वो टेस्ट आ गया, वो टेस्ट हो गया, स्लाइड बन गई. बिकॉज अब जो डॉक्टर मिर्जा कह रही थी कि हमें पैथोलॉजी जो बेसिक उसकी अंडरलाइंग पैटर्न है डिजीज का, वो अब हमें समझ नहीं आएगा, बिकॉज कुछ पॉपुलेशंस आपको इंफॉर्मेशन दे ही नहीं रही फॉर मेडिकल केयर। तो डॉक्टर अल्ताफ, आई वांट टू ब्रिंग यू इन बिकॉज आई नो कि आप तीनों लोग, जैसे समीन ने कहा, ये पोलियो के ऊपर भी काम करते रहे हैं। व्हाट आर द लेसन्स? हाउ डू यू स्टार्ट टू बिल्ड or revive this trust between the community and the state, or create a partnership between the community and the state to start to deliver public health systems? Because it's not a mechanical system about only or doctors. I think the key of this is a deeper governance problem here.
जी जी, बिल्कुल, आपने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा। और ये बड़ा क्रूशल इशू है इन लार्ज पब्लिक हेल्थ प्रोग्राम्स। यू विल फाइंड दैट जहाँ पे ये स्टेट के डायरेक्टिव्स लोग फॉलो करते हैं और स्टेट की बात मानते हैं, वहाँ पे दे हैव an experience of the state being responsive to their needs previously and a trust in the system. केरला का भी यही कंडीशन है, और जो हम साउथ कोरिया और सिंगापुर की बात करते हैं वहाँ पे भी यही बात है। आप देखिए यहाँ पे, जैसे समीन ने कहा कि यहाँ पे तो स्टेट की और सिटीजन्स की बिल्कुल पोलर ऑपोजिट वो है। The citizens actually have absolutely no trust in the state, और स्टेट जो है वो ऐसी बातें करती है कि वो उस डिस्ट्रस्ट को रीइंफोर्स करती है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, मैं आपको बताऊं कि ये मैंने तो अखबार में तस्वीर देखी थी कि जिस वक्त प्राइम मिनिस्टर अपनी टाइगर फोर्स को सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग के ऊपर और आइसोलेशन के ऊपर लेक्चर दे रहे थे, बता रहे थे, उनसे टॉक कर रहे, बोल रहे थे, तो ऑल ऑफ दोस टाइगर फोर्स वर सिटिंग हडल्ड टुगेदर एंड नोबडी वाज वेयरिंग एनी मास्क। और वो उनको बता रहे थे कि आपने लोगों को जाके कहना है कि मास्क पहने और ये करें और वो करें। आप जितनी भी तस्वीरें देखते हैं कंट्रोल रूम की जो अखबार में आती हैं, मैं भी वही देख रही हूँ, तो all these senior people, policy makers who are telling people that there should be social distancing and stay 6 feet away from each other and wear masks, none of these people are wearing masks and none of them are sitting far away from each other. So लोग ये वो देखते हैं और then they make this assumption and pilot on the previous assumptions कि भाई यहाँ पे दो सिस्टम चल रहे हैं, आपके लिए जो है वो अलग है और हमारे लिए वो अलग है। So clearly there is that issue. So इसको कैसे फिक्स किया जा सकता है, ये एक वो है। But I want to add one thing to this discussion. वो ये है कि जो we are not bringing actually data and science to our response. For example, ये जब से ये हमने लॉकडाउन किया, आप देखिए कि the number of cases and the number of deaths have continued to rise and the graph is still, the trajectory is still towards ascent. आप देखिए कि बाकी सारे, जैसे इन्होंने कहा, मुशर्रफ ने कहा था कि the world is the same. I disagree, the world is not the same, because if you even look at a place like New York, तो उनका जो trajectory of their graph is actually either flattened or it started to come down. So the world is the same in terms of the biological contagion, मगर जो populations हैं और जो आपकी challenges of constraints हैं, वो entirely different है. So your response has to be within those challenges and those constraints. तो स्टेट को अब क्या करना चाहिए? स्टेट को सबसे पहले तो ये भी नहीं किसी को पता कि ये जो लोग मर रहे हैं ये किस कोविड से मर रहे हैं या किस चीज से मर रहे हैं। माय वेरी क्विक इनफॉर्मल बैक ऑफ द एनवेलप सर्वेज दैट आई डू एवरी वीक इज दैट जो इंटेंसिव केयर यूनिट्स हैं एटलीस्ट पंजाब के पब्लिक हॉस्पिटल्स के, उसमें 15 से 20% से ज्यादा ऑक्यूपेंसी नहीं है। So not even the regular patients जिनको intensive care units चाहिए होते हैं वो भी नहीं आ रहे। So clearly there is something happening in our population and a lot of people I know, nurses and doctors, जो कि अब सबसे ज्यादा vulnerable group है, जिसको सबसे ज्यादा रिस्क है, जिसको सबसे ज्यादा प्रोटेक्ट करना चाहिए, वो लोग तो अपने टेस्ट भी नहीं करा रहे because they say कि भाई हमारा टेस्ट होगा, अगर हम पॉजिटिव निकलेंगे तो हमारे लिए तो बड़ी मुश्किल हो जाएगी और मुसीबत हो जाएगी। So clearly, we need to get some data, and I would suggest कि एक जो डेटा इंडिया से अभी मैंने आज ही देखा है कि they are monitoring their graveyards, and what we've been saying, people like us for the past week, कि आप अपने graveyards अगर monitor करें और अगर उसको compare करें average of last year at this time, और अगर एक बहुत ही spike उसमें आई है तो वो किसी वजह से आई है। India has actually found that the deaths are 3 times more than the average last year. So clearly something is happening. और ये कहना कि नहीं ये तो आम सी बीमारी है, इसमें कुछ भी नहीं होगा और लोग जो हैं ये तो इन्फ्लुएंजा की तरह, might be right and might be wrong, क्योंकि आप देखिए कि even if the case fatality rate जो है वो 2% है, जो गवर्नमेंट की अपनी assessment के मुताबिक है, तो in a population of 200 million, it comes to about 880,000 people who will eventually die. That's a very large number. You can't afford to do that. So you have to do something to prevent these deaths, और वो something आपकी अपनी constraints के मुताबिक होगा. आप देखिए, अगर आपने ये लगाया था लॉकडाउन के भाई इससे लोग जो हैं वो बच जाएंगे और इससे डिजीज इतनी नहीं फैलेगी, तो उस लॉकडाउन के साथ तो कोई फायदा नहीं हुआ, डिजीज फिर भी फैल गई है, लोग फिर भी मर रहे हैं. तो अब आपको क्या करना चाहिए? अगर आपने खोलना भी है तो उसको सेंसिबल तरीके से खोलना चाहिए. फॉर एग्जांपल आई वुड सजेस्ट कि जो फैक्ट्रीज हैं उनको खोल देना चाहिए, कि आप कोविड की कंप्लायंस जो है उनको कोविड की कंप्लायंस बना के देनी चाहिए, कि आप कोविड कंप्लायंट ओपनिंग करें. फॉर एग्जांपल, पीपल हु कम इन शुड बी टेस्टेड एंड एनीबॉडी हु इज टेस्टेड पॉजिटिव should not be allowed to come in. There should be space between people who work. So there are lots of those things that can be done. एक चीज जो गवर्नमेंट अपने लिए खुद अपने आप को अंडरमाइन करती है, आई फील, कि वो ये है कि आई एम एंड पीपल लाइक मी आर वेरी वेरी फ्रस्ट्रेटेड. पिछले 2 महीने से हमें गवर्नमेंट की जो प्लान्स है वो कहीं पे भी नहीं नजर आती, किसी वेबसाइट पे नहीं है, कुछ वो नहीं है. गवर्नमेंट के वजीर आके और या सीनियर पॉलिसी मेकर्स आके अनाउंस कर देते हैं कि भाई हम ये कर रहे हैं, हम वो कर रहे हैं, हम पीपीईज भेज रहे हैं. हम अस्पतालों को फोन करके पूछते हैं, वो कहते हैं हमें कोई भी नहीं मिल रहा. So, there needs to be some documentation. These are large public policy issues. There needs to be some documentation that is in the public domain, that people like us, organizations like yourselves, LUMS hai, AAP hai, PIDE hai, ऐसी organizations देख के उस पे comment कर सकती हैं और government की मदद कर सकती हैं कि उन्हें क्या करना चाहिए. मैंने बहुत, जब ये शुरू भी हुआ था तो एक दो op-eds लिखे थे, तो उसमें मैंने clearly कहा था, reinforcing exactly what Samin said, कि जो इसकी मैनेजमेंट और पॉलिसी है वो सेंट्रल होनी चाहिए. द गवर्नमेंट शुड हैव at its disposal scientists, epidemiologists and virologists and people from the social sciences who understand the behavior of the population, because जिस तरह population behave करती है, that has very significant impact on the outcome. वो गवर्नमेंट के पास होने चाहिए जो ऑन अ डेली बेसिस एनालिसिस करके गवर्नमेंट को ऑप्शंस बता रहे हैं कि जी आपके पास बेस्ड ऑन दिस डेटा ये ऑप्शन है और ये ऑप्शन है. एंड द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन रियली शुड बी एट द यूनियन काउंसिल एंड द डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल. डिस्ट्रिक्ट की आपकी इतनी अच्छी आपके पास मैनेजमेंट स्ट्रक्चर है, वो वहां पे होना चाहिए. सो आई विल रीइंफोर्स व्हाट समीन सेड.
So, डॉक्टर मिर्जा, sort of ये जो आप भी इसकी बहुत बात करती हैं, जो डॉक्टर अल्ताफ ने भी बात की, कि हमारे जो इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम्स हैं, मतलब मोर्टालिटी को डॉक्यूमेंट करने के और डिजीजेस को डॉक्यूमेंट करने के, वो बहुत वीक हैं पाकिस्तान. सो वो भी एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट का एलिमेंट है जो हमें बहुत मुख्तलिफ बनाता है, या डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज की रिस्पॉन्स को बहुत मुख्तलिफ बनाएगा. तो हाउ डू यू सी दैट शेपिंग?
Yeah, so see, any intervention needs some basic information. Like, for example, if you're going to immunize kids against polio, you need to understand the prevalence of polio. You need to have some numbers to show that, yes, the prevalence is really high. That's why I'm going out and immunizing children against polio. The same is true for diabetes. If you want to invest a tremendous amount of money in preventing diabetes, then you need to understand the prevalence of diabetes, and you need to understand the factors that are associated with the prevalence of diabetes. And for that, we need a very structured, very sophisticated health informatics system where we can go around and we can understand what our problems are in terms of hereditary diseases, what our problems are in terms of infectious diseases, what are the factors that are responsible for the transmission of those infectious diseases, the social aspects of our population that are resulting in increased transmission, like for tuberculosis. It's been 72 years, we still couldn't control tuberculosis. 60% of our population is still infected with TB, and we cannot control it. So we need to understand the behavioral aspect of that, and that is all going to come from some basic underlying data. And you need to collect all that information, put it in an information system, which is usually a health informatics system, and then analyze it, and then devise intelligent interventions which you can take to the public. You can explain them to the public. This is for your benefit. I'm going to go back to what Samin said about immunization. that people refuse immunization. That's because we don't have any efficient data to convince these people that, see, if you don't get immunized, if you don't immunize your children, if you don't immunize yourself, then it will result in some really horrible consequences. Not meaning to scare them, but to convey your message, you have to speak in their lingo. You have to speak their language. And in order to do that, you need to come up with some basic information. And that basic information is going to come if you have specific systems in place that is collecting all that information. Aapne abhi Kerala ka zikr kiya. First of all, we cannot compare to Kerala. 100% education hai Kerala mein. Their health informatics system is out of this world. Their information technology is out of this world. I don't want to give credit to the government. I mean, it's not just because the government and the local sector was communicating with each other really well. It is because all of the infrastructure was in place. All they had to do is go and tap into those systems, get the numbers, and then design an intervention or a strategy that was most suitable to prevent the spread of that epidemic. And if we had those numbers, I'm sure we would have done really wonders, because Pakistani population is really smart. We are using cell phones. We are getting those. So instead of sending us corona alert messages, I hope that we can tell people why social distancing is so important. Why we have to. They just say कि हाथ ना मिलाइए, गले ना मिलिए, इससे बीमारी फैलती. No, you don't need to tell them. We are very intelligent people. You need to come up with a very innovative way of conveying these messages that sink in with these people, that these people can associate with. Namaz क्यों नहीं पढ़ने जाना? Namaz से क्या होता है? But बराबर. So you need to tell them that, yeah, there is nothing wrong with saying prayers in namaz, but because you are in a closed space and you will be breathing each other's air, there is a possibility that you might get infected. But nobody's conveying these messages. And if somebody convey these messages very effectively, but this is all going to come from understanding the behavior and understanding your own population. So I think a health informatics system is extremely essential in order to design strategies.
So, I know you want to come in quickly on this point, and then I want to go to Musharraf for one important point.
This is a really quick point, which is that the government also needs to take care of misinformation. So there's a lot of WhatsApp forwards about various random cures and ye aise nahi hota aur aise nahi hota. This is a very serious issue, and we've seen this with polio, which has also led to violence and refusals. And the government has now begun to, for example, pull down Facebook posts which are carrying misinformation about polio, and it needs to take similar action on COVID-19. However, at the same time, data protection and digital privacy should also remain something that's on our horizon. We can't just dismiss those concerns, basic human rights, just because COVID-19 has been has arrived. So there needs to be this fine balance between all of these factors.
So I have a question actually, which links to the point you're making, which is from Tehmeena Khan, who's saying that basically communities also don't take personal responsibility. How do you see that in terms of this information and education campaign that you're talking about? If you could be brief, because I want to turn to Musharraf as well.
The communities, of course, I mean, you have to engage them in such a way that they're not going to start off by taking responsibility, right? So the first thing that they're going to do is that they're going to say, ki, first of all, aap hain kaun aur aap kya chahte hain, right? So there's a lot of suspicion that goes into any government functionary showing up at their door. Typically, the response we used to get was, ki aap hame tax karne aaye hain. So, those kinds of concerns are very real. And the government's take has been that we will show up, for example, to vaccinate your kids for polio, magar hum aur kisi cheez ke liye available nahi hai, doctors nahi honge, BHU mein nahi honge, RHC mein nahi honge. So there needs to be some basic level of service that you're providing to citizens so that they trust you. And that's where you can finally say to them कि हाँ भाई ठीक है हमने certain provision की है और उसके आगे you have to take the responsibility to, for example, actually bring your child who is feeling unwell to the doctor. But that will only happen if the citizen believes that the doctor will be present when they say that they are present, or medicine will be available, or they won't have to pay a bribe, or they won't be given fake medicines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, or the police won't show up at their door and they won't get beaten up. Sure. So it's a two-way thing.
Okay, so Musharraf, one thing I want to bring you in is that, one thing that's emerging is conversation से is कि वो response के different layers हैं. So आपका लोगों ने central layer की बात की, community layer की बात की, और एक बीच वाला layer भी है जिसमें हमने बहुत actually action भी देखा है और बड़ी response देखी है जो सूबाई layer है. अगर आप इन तीनों लेयर्स को कंबाइन कर दें, यानी कि सेंटर फेडरल, देन सेंटर प्रोविंस एंड देन कम्युनिटी, इसको आपको पता है कि हम पॉलिटिकल साइंस की जबान में फेडरलिज्म कहते हैं। तो एक तरीके से जो लोग यहाँ पे कह रहे हैं वो ये कह रहे हैं कि जो फेडरलिज्म के स्ट्रक्चर की वीकनेसेस हैं वो हमारी रिस्पॉन्स को भी इम्पेयर कर रही हैं, बट दूसरी तरफ लोग ये कह रहे हैं कि उसको स्ट्रेंथन किए बगैर ये काम चल भी नहीं सकता। ये इस्लामाबाद से नहीं काम चल सकता, बल्कि इधर तो लोग कह रहे हैं कि ये कराची या लाहौर से भी काम नहीं चल सकता, आपको कम्युनिटी में प्रेजेंस चाहिए होगी। तो आपने इस पे बहुत ज्यादा काम किया हुआ है। आई वॉन्ट यू टू कम इन एंड थिंक कि इस वक्त क्विक रिस्पॉन्स में हम इस पे क्या कर सकते हैं। और उसमें एक रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन है मोहम्मद तैमूर साहब का, जो कह रहे हैं कि आर वी जस्ट पॉलिटिसाइजिंग कोविड-19, एंड आई थिंक दिस रिलेट्स टू द फेडरलिज्म क्वेश्चन, कि हम जो है फेडरल कोऑपरेशन की बजाय अभी भी टेंशंस देखते जा रहे हैं विद इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ द एपिडेमिक. So if you could sort of comment on both the response that is there, but also in a federal structure, but also okay, what is the cost of a dysfunctional federalism on the response?
So first, I'd say I mean, I take exception, Dr. Chima, to the notion that we are suffering from a dysfunctional federalism because it problematizes the wrong thing. The dysfunction is in our fiscal regime, not in our federalist structure. Nor, frankly, do I think that there's any structural or normative problem with the way in which Pakistan's, design founders of Pakistan's constitution writers framed or designed federalism in this country. It's a reasonably standard set-piece federalism design or federal design, and that design is more ideal perhaps for Pakistan than it would be in many other places because of the construct of Pakistani society and the state.
No, but I'm actually agreeing with you. All I'm saying is the design is not being implemented. I mean, you have an NFC proposal that goes, and parties right now are contesting the formulation, the basic TORs. The CCI.
Yeah. No, I know where you are, but I just thought for viewers, when they hear dysfunctional federalism, there's a lot of people who are going to get really excited and say, Ali Chima bhi hamare sath agree karta hai.
नहीं, मैं तो उसी बात कह रहा हूँ। मैं तो कह रहा हूँ कि आपको तीनों टीयर्स के बगैर आप फंक्शन कर ही नहीं सकते बेसिकली, और कम्युनिटी
नहीं, वो बिल्कुल ठीक है, लेकिन इसमें देखें, so there's a medium to longer term problem which is a capacity problem, but it's not the capacity problem we hear about कि जी सुबह में capacity नहीं है. Actually capacity problem जो है वो multifarious है, लेकिन उसमें जो बुनियादी उनसर है जहां genuine there is a problem is that at the time that we negotiated and agreed the 2009-2010 period, when we figured out that the Charter of Democracy was going to be executed through this sort of omnibus legislation that was going to reinstitute or reconstitute the federal nature of this country. At that time, the big picture wins were really important. So every major reform, and this is a rule, it's the standard, again, all over the world in every context. Once you go for one big bang reform, it has to be followed by follow-on smaller bang reforms. So 2 or 3 of those, and Samin is actually the expert in one of them, which is that you had a degree, I would not say full, but a degree of fiscal federalism. That is how the money gets distributed through the NFC, which actually was agreed before the 18th Amendment was agreed, which a lot of people, tend to mix up. But it was instrumental that the NFC was agreed prior to the 18th Amendment because you weren't going to get the 18th Amendment without getting that agreement on the NFC. To get the NFC, you needed the biggest constituent of the federation to cede space. And so a very clear and obvious, and I don't really mind if it offends people, but Punjab had to essentially give away part of its share in order for that NFC to be agreed. And so that statesmanship or that political craftsmanship helped deliver the fiscal federalism. Concurrently, you needed administrative federalism, and you had a major modicum of that, but you didn't have it the whole hog either, and you never do. So you had a bunch of individual employees of the state that were transferred from the federal to the provincial, and you also had a ceding of function through the resolution of the concurrent list or some resolution of the concurrent list. There's been some there's been some, maybe relapse is too strong a word, but there's been some clouding of that over the years. Then the third part of it that was the most important that never took place is that you needed your delivery instruments, that is your civil servants in your bureaucracy, to be federalized, if you will. And that never happened because you still have something called the APUG, and within that you have something that used to be called the DMG, is now called the PAS, and you have the Secretariat Group and the PSP, and they're all still managed and owned by the center. So basically the decision making in all the provinces of all the provinces in all the departments is run by federal babus, not by provincial officers. And what that does to the degree of ownership and autonomy of the provinces is significantly reducing. So when we talk about COVID-19 ho gaya aur humne problems kaise resolve karni hai, you end up where provincial secretaries and federal secretaries are being transferred in and out of their jobs in the most important functions during the height of the COVID epidemic or pandemic. So the reason that's happening is because you have an unresolved federal design. That is that A, the federalism project is incomplete, and B, the people involved who should be vested in fixing federalism talk a big game about the administrative and power dynamic of federalism, but they don't do anything about the mechanics of how federalism will be delivered. If you want union councils that are able to execute policy, it isn't just important to have clear policy and clear communication at the Prime Minister's office or at the federal level, and those are vital, and we haven't had at least enough of that. I certainly with the Prime Minister, I think communication has been a big problem throughout this pandemic. But more important than the clear communication is the clarity of function and purpose. If an assistant commissioner at a tehsil or town or taluka level is in charge of the entire tehsil, that is multiple union councils, and you have many hundreds of union councillors who are basically sitting idly, waiting to be bussed into a location for a siyasi jalsa and having no other role, then the notion of federalism is incomplete. And the province is complaining about the federation grabbing their power, which is a legitimate complaint, is actually hollow because they themselves are acting like the federal thug or the central thug when it comes to union council, town, taluka, tehsil, and district level administrative powers.
Thank you. So I want to thank all my guests. Hamara time unfortunately khatam ho gaya, but thank you for such a rich discussion. मेरे ख्याल में इसमें दो तीन चीजें इंपॉर्टेंट निकलती हैं कि ये सिर्फ मेडिकल इशू नहीं है, ये एक बहुत बुनियादी गवर्नेंस और कैपेसिटी का इशू है, जिसमें बेसिकली एक तो आपको डिफरेंट लेयर्स और गवर्नमेंट्स को एसेंशियली कनेक्ट करना पड़ेगा पार्टली थ्रू टेक्नोलॉजी एंड इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम्स, बट जैसे मुशर्रफ ने कहा पार्टली थ्रू रियल मीनिंगफुल इन्वॉल्वमेंट बाय गिविंग देम रोल्स एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज. और जैसे डॉक्टर अल्ताफ और डॉक्टर मोहसिन ने कहा कि कम्युनिटीज को फिर उन यूनियन काउंसिल्स लेवल पे आपको साथ लेके चलना पड़ेगा. But in addition to that, जैसे कि डॉक्टर मिर्जा और डॉक्टर अल्ताफ कह रही थी कि at the end of the day जो इसमें डेटा और साइंस है वो इसके साथ आपको मिलानी पड़ेगी और उस सिस्टम को आपको इकट्ठा करना पड़ेगा और आपको एक ऐसा sort of framework डिजाइन करना पड़ेगा जिसमें आप complete लॉकडाउन तो ना करें, but actually आप जो essential income generation activities हैं उसको मैनेज कर सकें, but in a way, और मैं शुरू में उसमें जाता हूँ जिससे डॉक्टर अल्ताफ ने शुरू किया कि you assess risks, but आपका गोल ये है कि you are effectively reducing harm. जो harm आ सकती है सिचुएशन से उसको आपने मैनेज करना है, वो एक गोल है, बट उस पे डिफरेंट लेयर्स ऑफ एग्रीमेंट जो है सोसाइटी में आपको कंकर करना पड़ेगा और ये चैलेंज रहेगी और इस डिस्कशन को हमें आगे लेके ज्यादा एक्शनेबल बनाना चाहिए. But thank you for all my guests. I know they're very busy people for taking out time, and I hope that we can have return to this conversation soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jim.